At Christmas brunch, my sister raised her glass and said, "Let's all toast to cutting out dead weight, starting with you." Everyone laughed. I smiled, reached into my bag, and said, "Perfect timing." I dropped the house deed on the table, with their names removed. 2 minutes later, my mom was pale, my sister was shouting, and my aunt whispered, "What did you just do?" I, 34M, sat at the far end of the dining table, watching the Christmas lights blink weakly against the window. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasting turkey, the kind of smell that used to mean something before everything turned sour. My sister was already on her third mimosa, laughing too loud at something my cousin said. My mother sat at the head of the table, her smile tight and practiced, the way it always was when she pretended everything was fine. I knew what was coming. I had known for weeks. The jokes had been building. The little digs slipped into conversations like poison in tea. Deadweight. Disappointment. Failure. They thought I didn't hear, or maybe they thought I didn't care anymore. But I heard everything. I remembered everything. My sister stood up, glass raised high, her face flushed with alcohol and confidence. She announced that she wanted to make a toast. The table quieted down, and I felt every eye turn toward her. She said something about family, about moving forward, about cutting out the dead weight that dragged us all down. Then she turned to me, her smile sharp as broken glass, and said that meant starting with me. The table erupted in laughter. My mother didn't stop them. My aunt covered her mouth, but her eyes were gleaming with amusement. My cousin nearly choked on his drink. I smiled. I reached into my bag slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a manila envelope. I told them the timing was perfect. I dropped it on the table, right in the middle of the roasted vegetables and cranberry sauce. The laughter died like someone had cut the power. My sister asked what that was supposed to be. I told her to open it. She grabbed the envelope, tearing it open with her manicured nails. She pulled out the papers, her eyes scanning the first page. I watched her face change. Confusion first, then realization, then something close to panic. My mother leaned over, asking what it was. My sister said nothing, just stared at the document in her hands. My aunt reached across and took the papers, her expression shifting as she read. She looked up at me, her voice barely a whisper, asking what I had just done. I told them it was the deed to the house. This house, the one we were sitting in. The one my grandmother left to me when she died 3 years ago. The one my mother and sister had been living in rent-free ever since. The one they thought belonged to all of us because I never corrected them. The one I had just legally amended to remove both their names from any potential claim. My mother went pale. She asked if this was some kind of joke. I told her it wasn't. My sister started shouting, demanding to know what I thought I was doing, saying I couldn't just kick them out, that this was their home too. I reminded her that legally, it never was. My grandmother left the house to me. Only me. I had the original will, the probate documents, everything. I had let them stay because I thought family mattered. But apparently, I was just dead weight. My aunt tried to play peacemaker, saying we should all calm down and talk about this rationally. I told her there was nothing to talk about. I had already made my decision. I had consulted with a lawyer 2 months ago, right around the time my sister told me at Thanksgiving that I was a leech who contributed nothing to the family. I had filed the necessary paperwork, paid the fees, done everything by the book. The house was mine, and mine alone, and I wanted them out by the end of January. My sister called me every name she could think of. My mother started crying, asking how I could do this to my own family, saying my grandmother would be ashamed of me. I asked her if my grandmother would be proud of how they had treated me. The crying stopped. My mother looked away. I stood up from the table. I told them I would be spending Christmas elsewhere, that they could finish their brunch and their mimosas and their jokes about dead weight. I told them the eviction notice would be delivered formally after the holidays, but I wanted them to know now so they could start making arrangements. I told them I had tried. I had tried for 3 years to be the bigger person, to ignore the insults, to pretend it didn't hurt when they treated me like I was nothing. But I was done trying. I walked out of that dining room with my head high and my hands steady. Behind me, I heard my sister screaming, my mother sobbing, my aunt trying desperately to calm everyone down. I didn't look back. The next few days were quiet. I stayed at a friend's place, ignoring the dozens of calls and texts that flooded my phone. My mother left voicemails begging me to reconsider, saying she didn't know things had gotten so bad, promising things would change. My sister sent messages that swung wildly between apologies and threats, saying she would fight me in court, that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. My aunt tried to mediate, suggesting we all sit down and work something out like adults. I didn't respond to any of them. 2 days after Christmas, my uncle called. He was my mother's brother, someone I had always respected because he stayed out of family drama and treated everyone fairly. He asked if we could meet for coffee. I agreed. We met at a small cafe near the river, the kind of place that was mostly empty on a weekday afternoon. My uncle ordered black coffee and got straight to the point. He said my mother had called him in tears, explaining what happened. He said my sister was furious and talking about legal action. He said the whole family was in an uproar. Then he asked me to tell him my side. I told him everything. I told him about the years of mockery, the constant comparisons to my sister who apparently could do no wrong, the way they treated my career as a joke because I chose teaching over corporate law. I told him about the time my sister borrowed $5,000 and never paid it back, then laughed when I asked about it months later. I told him about my mother always taking her side, always dismissing my concerns, always making me feel like I was being too sensitive. I told him about the house, about how my grandmother specifically left it to me because she knew what they were like, and how I had let them stay because I thought maybe they would appreciate it, maybe they would treat me better. My uncle listened without interrupting. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. He said he had suspected something was wrong, but didn't realize it had gotten that bad. He said my mother had always favored my sister, that he had argued with her about it over the years, but she never listened. He said he was sorry I had been treated that way. Then he asked what I planned to do next. I told him I was going through with the eviction. I told him I had already contacted a property management company to handle things professionally and legally. I told him I was done being the family punching bag. He nodded slowly, then asked if there was any chance of reconciliation. I told him honestly that I didn't know. I said maybe someday, if they genuinely changed and acknowledged what they had done, but not now. Not while they were still acting like I was the villain. My uncle said he understood. He said he would try to talk to my mother, help her see things from my perspective, but he wasn't optimistic. He said my sister was probably beyond reasoning with. Then he surprised me by saying he was proud of me for standing up for myself, that it took courage to set boundaries with family. We finished our coffee and parted ways. The eviction notice was delivered on January 2nd. My mother called me immediately, her voice shaking, asking if I was really going to do this. I told her I was. She started pleading, saying they had nowhere to go, that she couldn't afford rent on her pension, that my sister was between jobs. I reminded her that she had been living rent-free in a house worth over $400,000 for 3 years. I suggested she might have saved something during that time. The line went quiet for a moment. Then she hung up. My sister showed up at my friend's apartment 3 days later. She pounded on the door until my friend answered, then demanded to see me. My friend told her I wasn't there, which was technically true since I had stepped out to grab lunch. My sister called her a liar and tried to push past. My friend blocked her and threatened to call the police. My sister left, but not before screaming that I was destroying the family and that I would regret this. I filed for a restraining order the next day. My lawyer advised that given her behavior and the threatening messages she had been sending, the order was granted temporarily, pending a hearing. That seemed to be the wake-up call my sister needed because the messages stopped completely after that. Meanwhile, I moved back into the house. It felt strange at first, walking through rooms that had been filled with their presence for so long. My mother had left behind some furniture and personal items, which she arranged to collect through my uncle to avoid direct contact. My sister took her things in the middle of the night, probably to avoid seeing me. I changed the locks the same day. The house felt bigger without them, quieter. I spent the first week just cleaning, erasing the traces of 3 years of resentment and dysfunction. I repainted the living room, replaced the curtains my mother had hung, rearranged furniture until the space felt like mine. It was cathartic in a way I hadn't expected. Update 1. It's been 3 months since Christmas. The restraining order against my sister was made permanent after she violated the temporary one by showing up at my school where I teach. She made a scene in the parking lot, yelling about how I stole her inheritance and ruined her life. Security escorted her off the property, and the incident was documented. The hearing was brief. The judge granted the permanent order without hesitation. My mother has gone mostly silent. She moved in with my aunt, who apparently offered her a room out of family obligation rather than genuine sympathy. My uncle told me she's bitter and angry, that she blames me for tearing the family apart, but she's not actively trying to contact me anymore. He said she's been telling people that I'm ungrateful and cruel, that my grandmother would be rolling in her grave. I asked him if he believed that. He said no. He said my grandmother was one of the sharpest women he ever knew and she wouldn't have left me the house if she didn't have good reason. That conversation meant more to me than he probably realized. My sister found a job, according to social media posts I saw through a mutual friend. She's working retail and living in a small apartment across town. The posts are full of vague comments about betrayal and fake family, clearly directed at me. I don't respond. I don't engage. I just keep living my life. The house has become my sanctuary. I adopted a dog, a rescue mutt who was as wary of people as I was of family. We've been good for each other. I started hosting dinner parties for my actual friends, the people who supported me through everything, who told me I deserved better, who celebrated when I finally took action. The house has laughter in it again, but it's genuine now. It's not covering up anything ugly. Work has been good too. My students don't know anything about the family drama, and I prefer it that way. Teaching has always been my passion, despite what my mother and sister thought about it. I love watching kids understand something for the first time, seeing their faces light up when a concept clicks. It's honest work, meaningful work, and I'm good at it. That's enough for me. I did have one uncomfortable encounter last month. I ran into my mother at the grocery store. We saw each other across the produce section. She looked older somehow, more tired. For a moment, I thought she might just ignore me and walk away. Instead, she approached. She asked how I was doing. I said I was fine. She said she was staying with my aunt. I said I had heard. Then there was this long, awkward silence. She asked if we could talk. I asked what there was to talk about. She said she wanted to apologize, that she had been thinking a lot about everything that happened, that maybe she hadn't been fair to me over the years. I told her maybe wasn't good enough. I told her that until she could actually acknowledge what she and my sister had done, until she could take real responsibility instead of making vague statements about being unfair, there was nothing to discuss. She looked like I had slapped her. She said I had changed. I told her I had just stopped accepting being treated like garbage. Then I walked away. I haven't heard from her since. Update 2. 6 months after Christmas. Things have settled into a new normal. The house is fully mine in every sense now. I've made renovations, turned my grandmother's old sewing room into a home office, updated the kitchen. Every change makes it feel less like the place where I was mocked and more like somewhere I actually want to be. I've been seeing someone. We met through a friend of a friend at one of those dinner parties I mentioned. She's a librarian, quiet and thoughtful, with a sharp sense of humor that catches me off guard in the best way. I told her about the family situation on our third date because I figured she deserved to know what she was potentially getting into. She listened to the whole story without interrupting, then said her family was complicated too, that she understood. We've been taking things slow, but it's been good. Really good. My uncle has kept in touch. He stops by every few weeks, usually with coffee and updates I don't ask for but appreciate having. He said my mother has been talking about wanting to reconcile, but doesn't know how. He said my sister refuses to admit any wrongdoing and is telling everyone who will listen that I'm a vindictive monster. He asked if I ever think about reaching out. I told him honestly that I think about it sometimes, usually late at night when the house is quiet and the dog is asleep and I'm alone with my thoughts. But then I remember sitting at that Christmas table, remember the laughter when my sister said I was dead weight, remember years of feeling small and worthless in my own family. And the impulse passes. He said he understood. He said he didn't blame me. Then he told me something I hadn't known before. He said when my grandmother was making her will, she had talked to him about it. She had told him she was leaving the house to me specifically because she worried about how my mother and sister treated me. She had said she wanted me to have something that was truly mine, something they couldn't take or diminish. She had known exactly what she was doing. I cried when he told me that. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I had wondered sometimes if I was dishonoring her memory by kicking them out, if maybe she would have wanted me to be the bigger person and forgive. But knowing she had seen it all along, that she had tried to protect me even after death, it validated everything I had felt for years. There was a family gathering a few weeks ago. My cousin's wedding. I wasn't invited, which didn't surprise me. My uncle went and reported back, unprompted. He said my mother looked sad, that my sister caused a scene by drinking too much and complaining loudly about her life. He said several relatives asked about me, and when my mother tried to paint me as the villain, My uncle corrected the record. He said he told them exactly what had happened, how I had been treated, what I had tolerated for years. He said some of them seemed shocked. A few reached out to me afterward, apologizing for not seeing it sooner, for not standing up for me. I appreciated the gestures, but I'm wary. Family has a way of circling the wagons and rewriting history. I'm cordial in my responses, but I'm not rushing to rebuild bridges that were burned for good reasons. Update 3. It's been almost a year now. Nearly 12 months since that Christmas brunch that changed everything. I'm sitting in my backyard, watching my dog chase butterflies through the grass I finally got around to properly landscaping. The house looks better than it ever did when they lived here. Fresh paint, fixed gutters, a new deck I built with my own hands over the summer. Every nail I hammered felt like reclaiming something. My relationship is still going strong. She moved in 2 months ago, and it was the easiest decision I've made in years. She gets along with my dog. She loves the house. She doesn't judge me for the family stuff, doesn't push me to reconcile before I'm ready. She's just there, solid and supportive and real. I got a letter from my mother last week. An actual letter, handwritten, delivered by mail. It was 6 pages long. She said she had been in therapy, that her counselor had helped her understand some things about how she parented, how she had favored my sister without realizing it, how she had dismissed my feelings and minimized my hurt. She said she was sorry. She said she understood if I never wanted to speak to her again. But she wanted me to know she was trying to do better, trying to understand where she went wrong. She said she was proud of me for becoming a teacher, that she should have said that years ago. She said my grandmother would be proud of me too. I read the letter 3 times. I showed it to my girlfriend, talked it through with my uncle, sat with it for days. Then I wrote back. I told her I appreciated the letter, that I believed she was trying. I told her I wasn't ready for a relationship yet, that the wounds were still too fresh, but maybe someday we could work towards something. I told her that would require continued therapy on her part, continued acknowledgement of what happened, and absolutely no contact with my sister until my sister also took accountability. I haven't heard back yet. I don't know if I will. But I meant what I said. Maybe someday. My sister is a different story. I heard through the grapevine that she got fired from her retail job for attitude problems. She's apparently struggling financially and has been asking relatives for money. None of them are helping, according to my uncle. He said she burned too many bridges with her behavior after I evicted her. I don't feel sorry for her. Maybe that makes me cold. Maybe it makes me human. I'm not sure it matters which. I've been thinking about my grandmother a lot lately. Wishing I could thank her for the house, for seeing me when no one else did, for giving me the tools to stand up for myself even though she wasn't here to see it. I visit her grave sometimes, bring flowers, tell her about the renovations. I like to think she'd approve. The teaching is still fulfilling. I got nominated for an award last month, Teacher of the Year for our district. I probably won't win, but just being nominated felt like validation of a different sort. My students made me a card, full of messages about how I made learning fun, how I believed in them. I keep it in my desk drawer for days when I need a reminder of why I do this. My friends have been incredible. The ones who stood by me through everything, who told me I deserved better, who celebrated when I finally took action. We have regular game nights now, rotating houses, though mine has become the favorite because of the deck and the yard. It's the kind of family I wish I had been born into, the kind you choose rather than inherit. I'm happy. That's the strangest thing to realize after years of not being happy, of not even realizing how unhappy I was. I'm content in my home, fulfilled in my work, surrounded by people who actually value me. The cost was high, cutting off most of my blood family, becoming the villain in their story. But I would pay it again without hesitation. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't brought those papers to Christmas brunch, if I had just sat there and taken the joke and swallowed my anger like I always did. I think I would have eventually broken completely, or worse, just faded into bitterness and resentment. Instead, I chose myself. I chose dignity. I chose to be more than the dead weight they wanted me to be. The house is quiet tonight. My girlfriend is reading on the couch. My dog is asleep at her feet. I'm sitting here writing this, processing everything that's happened, everything that's changed. In a few minutes, I'll close my laptop and join them. Maybe we'll watch a movie. Maybe we'll just talk. Maybe we'll sit in comfortable silence. Whatever we do, it will be in my house, the one my grandmother left me, the one I fought to keep, the one that finally feels like home. And that's more than enough.